Today I'm going to be speaking to my old mate Dave Pearson. Dave used to play for Coventry City, and now he's in the fitness industry. So obviously enjoying the chat. Hopefully it's going to be a good one. And like I said, I haven't spoken to him for many, many years. So how's it going, Dave? You okay?
Yeah, good mate. It's been a long time, isn't it?
100%.
Very long time.
Exactly. We're just speaking off air for a few minutes because we haven't obviously caught up for years. Obviously,
Time flies, doesn't it?
100%. Obviously, we first met way back in the day, Leamington. Obviously, as you do as a youngster, everyone kind of, well, primarily, especially when we were youngsters, everyone wanted to play football, and that's how our kind of paths crossed. So, obviously, as you get older, things happen and people move and people end up having kids and whatever. So, really appreciate you coming on, and obviously, I want to find out what you're doing nowadays, and obviously things that happened in the past as well. So, if you want to just let everyone know kind of what you're doing at the moment.
Okay, so yeah, it's been a while, Dan, hasn't it, since we've properly caught up. But so basically, my background was, I signed for Coventry City at a young age. Obviously, you signed for Forest. Went through obviously the YTS system, got a couple of little short contracts we'll go into shortly, but then struggled to kind of find my way after being rejected from a couple of clubs. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So fast forward, let's say 10 years. I'm now a personal trainer. Been that for probably about 10 years now. Transitioning, obviously, with all the pandemic and stuff, it's now kind of going into the online coaching world. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So been a PT for 10 years, moving into the online space in the next transitioning right now. So that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. And I want you to kind of go into that PT thing, because obviously there's a lot of interest in it at the moment, and especially over the last few years as well. And I see like a lot of people going online and doing their various bits and bobs, especially through the height of the pandemic as well. So kind of elaborate on that, because you mentioned that you want to go into more so online rather than say one-to-one physical face-to-face interaction. So elaborate on that for me.
So basically, I've been a PT for 10 years. So I moved to London from the Midlands because that's kind of where it was at. Obviously, I knew I could earn more money moving down to London. Got stuck in a bit of a rut in Leamington, mate. As you know, we all, go out and spend so much time going out. Nothing was really happening. So I thought, move to London. Obviously, I joined David Lloyd, which, served me for kind of 8 years. Then went on my own, worked in a few studios and stuff like that. But obviously with this pandemic and the way the fitness industry is going now, everything's, as you know now, it's on Zoom, online, on this and that. So I've kind of within the pandemic, I got myself a business fitness mentor who's the best in the business. Spent a lot of money on that, which helps me now build all my systems to then kind of leverage my coaching online. Okay. And as we were just speaking off air now, it's online coaching isn't just giving the client a program and a nutrition plan, it's everything in between. So the mindset stuff, the lifestyle management, everything in and around, that client's lifestyle to make them obviously officially get a better result. So that's where I'm at now. It's that's the way just the fitness industry is going now. It's obviously like people don't really need a personal trainer. They need the support, they need the accountability, and they just, they need everything around their lifestyle, because many PTs are just working long hours. They've got 50, let's say, I used to do 50 sessions a week, mate, back to back, few client gaps here and there. Yeah. And I just wasn't able to manage the kind of rest of the client's lifestyle and stuff. And most PTs don't get results with their clients to that factor, because they're working long hours. They're just working a finger to the bone and just don't get the support with the time, really. So I think now building this kind of online platform, it's about just controlling all aspects of the client's lifestyle. They actually get more resources, they get more time with you because you're supporting them within a community-based stuff. And that's the way kind of I think personal training now is going, really. Yeah. People don't need personal trainers. They need everything else to support them in their journey. So that's where I'm at now.
Mate, that's really interesting, purely because I haven't got a clue about the PT industry, and I have seen a lot of people online and whatever else, and they're offering pretty much the same across the board. There are a few people offering different things. For me, one thing that interests me in terms of what you just said is the kind of the lifestyle factor of what you're trying to establish with your clients. And from their perspective, obviously the service that you're offering, it means that it's going to be more personable to them. It means you can get into their heads and obviously be a bit more intuitive with regards to what's actually happening in their life. And obviously then potentially they're going to open up to you more. You build a
100%.
relationship that way, and then potentially the results will be better because their mindset is going to be in that space where they're thinking, well, Dave actually cares for me, so I'm going to put that little bit extra.
That's the difference, you know, with personal training and being an online coach. You're able to really help them in their struggles, which is, you know, and I say this many times, is mindset, because, you know, people are stuck in a rut for a reason, and it's not because they're just going out and eating food for the sake of it. There's obviously an emotional attachment to that. You know, whether they've been in a bad relationship, had a bad upbringing, whatever it may be, there's always a little why, a reason why. You know, it could be something from a child, from school, from bullying. There's always that underlying issue that they've got that they haven't, you know, had the support with. And going to a personal trainer and just doing 10 sessions and, you know, trying to eat well isn't going to get them the result. It doesn't. You know, it's a very small margin that will get a result with a personal trainer. It's the managing the mindset and the lifestyle and all the habits that they create, and just getting rid of all these limiting beliefs, you know.
So what you're saying there then, do you think that's one of the contributing factors to people just kind of thinking, well, I've done it, it's not worked, and then they just go back to their old ways?
100%, mate. And I've been guilty with this before when I was fully PTing, is that you'll do a client will buy a batch of 10 sessions with you. They'll put everything in for them 10 sessions. They'll think they've done the job after, let's say, 10 sessions, go away, and then it will just revert back to the old selves again because they're not creating the habits and the mindset. So that's the difference with online coaching, is it's not just giving that client a plan and a nutrition thing and say, right, go and follow that. You know, you can get that off Google, but it's everything in between, you know, everything with supporting their journey from why they need the help in the first place, which is key. So, you know, and it's more, you know, for a PT, it's you're able to give them training, you know, like Zoom trainings here now. We do like coaching calls with the group. They all kind of troubleshoot together. So you have like my type of client base is all the same. I won't take, you know, a bodybuilder and then take a woman trying to lose 20 kg. That's not the market that you're trying to, you know, integrate together. So everyone can help each other, and it's kind of like you build this community where they're able to kind of ask each other questions and answer each other's questions and support, which is key, man. It's massive for them.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds really really exciting. And again, I'm going to look forward to seeing that. I always like to hear these stories, especially if I know the person, just because I'm happy for like people succeeding in life. So really happy. Again, we're going to elaborate more on other things as well, but I want to go kind of straight into it now. So talk to me about kind of your retirement, your transition away from football. You mentioned obviously you signed for Carvin.
Okay, so let's rewind back to when me and you were both playing at school. We both played for counties. You went to Forest, I went to Coventry. I did my 2-year YT. You was at obviously Forest. We went to Liddershall. So that's kind of my first memory of obviously the rejection side. So you made it in. I got rejected then, so I didn't get the contract, which was kind of my first big knockback in my eyes. It was tough to take. I was obviously then back to Coventry. It was kind of during that time. You obviously went off for 2 years you went, wasn't it?
2-year scholarship, yeah.
So I went back to Coventry then. We had a good squad. We had a few good players that made it into the Premier. Obviously, you know, Chris Kirtland and McSheffrey, who you've interviewed. We got to the FA Youth Cup final. I missed out on a contract again, so another little mini rejection there. Kind of didn't have the support. Obviously, I had the support from my mum. My dad was in Spain at that point. Then we went on a few exit trials, signed for Luton Town on a short contract with Lenny Lawrence, and then that contract kind of fizzled out because of receivership. The club went into receivership. So it was just little knockbacks after another. And it was just kind of really kind of winding me down. I signed then for Hereford with Graham Turner for a short term, and again it was all financial. They couldn't keep players on, had to get rid of a few players, and it's kind of at that point where I was struggling to think of my next move. You know, contracts obviously just run out. I wasn't getting trials. I was getting a little bit older. Kind of hadn't really got anything behind me. My time at Coventry, we had 1-day release course, which we went to Henley College in Coventry with a few of the Midlands clubs, so Villa, Walsall, Wolves, and we kind of saw it as just a day off training. Really, it wasn't like we were learning. We did leisure and tourism for a day. And it was, yeah, mate, we had, remember the old McDonald's cards we had?
Yeah.
the first team manager used to give us the McDonald's cards. So we'd go lunchtime, we'd drive to one McDonald's, get our free gold card meal, then drive to the next one. So, yeah, we weren't really there to learn, to be honest, mate. It was just a day release to, get off training, and then we'd go back and do our normal jobs and stuff and train. But for me, that transition was tough to then think about, getting a job. I then signed for like a semi-pro club. I think it was Rugby Town, the first one. I enjoyed my time there, but I always still thought in the back of my head that I would again get a contract somewhere that I'd probably just drop down for a little bit to go back up again. I was obviously uneducated at that point and wasn't really sure what my next move was, and it took me a while, mate. I suffered depression. I quite openly kind of talk about that, and it's hard to talk about because it's still probably something that is underlying. I didn't really have, I say the support. My mum supported me, but my dad was in Spain, and I just struggled to see anywhere kind of where my kind of identity was at that time. I got a couple of little short-term jobs. I think one was working in removals, like a couple of short-term fixes really, but again it wasn't a career, it wasn't anything that I enjoyed. I just did it for a bit of money. I got into the kind of mindset of just going out every weekend, just falling away, hanging around with the wrong good people, but that time it was kind of just taking me further away from the dream. We wanted to be a footballer, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, that was tough. It was tough. My 20s, early 20s, I was just a wreck, mate. If I think about it now, as I didn't really know where my life was going, didn't really have a clue. I didn't have any college, courses behind me. I did this 1-day release course that got me no, a leisure and tourism qualification, which, wasn't a qualification really to jump around with. So I think I then went to Spain. I moved to Spain for a short period and got a little contract in Spain playing equivalent of like league. Well, it was kind of second division Spain.
Okay.
But then again, it was short. My mum then had a brain tumour, moved back to the UK and was in the same boat, mate. I just didn't have a flipping clue what I wanted to do. So, I look back at my 20s and it was kind of like wasted time, really, just getting jobs to live for the weekend and go out, and then, it would be back to Monday, just do your job again. No idea what I wanted to do at all. So that was tough, man, when I think about it in my 20s.
It is tough. And again, this is why I get people to come on the podcast. And I don't necessarily force people to open up. As I said to you before when we spoke up there, you can take this wherever you want to, and you can elaborate as much as you want. But this is what I want people to hear who haven't got an inkling in terms of what actually happens in the footballing world, whether you're the higher echelons of football or kind of lower leagues or whatever, or anything in between. It can happen to anyone. And a lot of us are just immersed in, especially our day, going back, 20, 25 years now, when a coach would normally just say, look, just concentrate on your football, anything else, a distraction. And in theory, that's not true, because you can have outside interests. And normally if you do, and they're kind of not harbouring or not hindering your performance on the pitch, it's going to make you play better anyway. So for me to hear kind of a lot of the things that you just mentioned there, I've heard before through other people and their experiences, but obviously I didn't know that you were going through these things at that particular time. I know what it's like. I know what it's like when players get released and stuff, and I know obviously that's tough. But as a youngster, when you're 18, 19, you're not really going to open up to your mates because it's not all about that, is it?
I'll tell you now, Dan. I got counselling for my rejection. I had to get counselling because I was just a young kid, mate, not really knowing, where my vision was. I didn't know, anything apart from playing football, and that was it. I wasn't interested in anything else. I went pretty deep down. I was a wreck inside because and again, I think, and I always talk about obviously not having my dad in the UK, and, I lacked that kind of father figure to push me. And, my mum was superb. Like, she did 2 jobs in one, but, you always need your dad around, don't you?
Definitely.
Just to give you that, that tough love and stuff. So that was just a difficult time for me, mate, the early 20s, and, even probably up until, I became a PT or decided on that avenue as my next career. It was until then I was unsure about anything. I didn't know where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live. I was umming and ahhing whether to be in Spain, to be here. I just didn't have a clue. I thought about retraining and, doing sports science and, all this and that. But then I was getting a bit older. I was like, you have to go back to college and go with kids that are like 18, 19 or 20 or whatever. So yeah, just in the end, I just bit the bullet and just did my PT course, which, as you know, with being an ex, I say pro, but it was only a short period, that the PFA do help. And I did get support through the PFA after I left football to help me pay for kind of courses that I wanted to do. They were always really good in that sense. So I did get my PT course helped with, which did help at that time.
Brilliant. I mean, that's amazing that you got help from the PFA. And the PFA do a great job. I still say to this day, I do think they can do more, but it's easy to say that. It's like, what more can they do? But for me, again, you've stepped away from the game and now you're really successful. And I want to talk about your transferable skills, because you've obviously had that period where you thought, I want to make it, and then you've had rejection, and then during that rejection and those years, you're still thinking, look, I want to try and get to that level where I know I can play up. It didn't happen for various different reasons, and it can happen to anyone. But you've obviously got transferable skills. So I want you to kind of talk about that, because for me, now you've gone into an industry where you need to be able to liaise with people, converse. You need to have that personable approach. People need to be able to trust you. So you've obviously got a lot of things that are going for you in order for you to do what you're doing now. So talk to me about those first steps into kind of PTing and stuff.
So again, coming into the PT world, moving to London, I started picking up clients quite quickly, which was good because, I found myself to be relatable to a lot of people. I could almost get to their level. I was approachable. I had compassion. I listened. I was in good shape. So I always kind of attracted clients that way as well, because I kind of used the gym as since obviously the football days, I used the gym as my kind of get out clause, mate. As in, it was the only thing that I kind of was good at. I knew that if I went to the gym for an hour, I could be just fully focused on the gym, and that's all that mattered at that time. So within my clients, I felt like I could I almost felt like I'd been in their shoes. I'd had rejection. So the reason why a lot of clients get overweight and stuff is because of these limiting beliefs that they've got prior to coming to you. So whether it's, the weight they've put on or the mindset, like I keep saying about the mindset issues and stuff, but, all these mindset things of why they're not good enough, or they don't feel adequate to look a certain way or to be a certain way. So I think for me, being a successful PT over the last 10 years, I've never had to go and find clients. I've always had a good quota of clients always coming to me. And I think it's, once you start in the industry and you get a few results and you get a few, good people talking around you, you get referrals, you're always kind of, mainly it was referrals for me, people that had worked with me, passed on other people's contacts and stuff. So I felt like I was just able to kind of understand a client's perspective and why and where they were at. So I always felt my skills I was a good listener. I'd dealt with rejection. I'd felt where they were. So I was able to kind of guide them through the process in a way that they I remember one of my clients one time, she wasn't even a client. She came for a consultation and she just broke down in tears. And she just felt like she'd not been supported. Her family was, never supported her. It was kind of got a similar journey to me in terms of rejection and stuff. She'd had bad upbringing and stuff, not that I did or whatever, but she had this kind of she'd always been knocked down and not being able to kind of just get to that level where she was able to kind of do things for herself and just be in a happy place. So I always felt like I just had those skills to help a client through a journey from getting, coming in crying on me to then leaving the gym and feeling absolutely fantastic. For me, helping people, it's not getting people a set of abs. That is why I love my job. It's the transition of just getting them believing in themselves more than, just getting a physique. It's the mindset change.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I've been a PT for so long, is because I loved helping people change lives, mate. I just, that's what kind of makes me. It wasn't the money really, because that's just the byproduct.
Yeah.
It was just about getting someone coming in feeling absolutely shit about themselves and then going away feeling, like they've got to buy a new wardrobe and they're confident again. And, all these kind of things, these little things. I remember I'd leave a PT session with a client just ecstatic about getting, certain results and stuff.
Yeah.
The other stuff like the money and whatever else was just a little byproduct of just getting them to where they wanted to be.
That's great, mate. It must be a good feeling to obviously, like you said, people coming in, they feel a bit down and like limited in terms of their expectations of themselves for whatever reason. And then obviously when they leave a session or sessions or whatever with you, and then you can see the difference in their demeanor and everything and how they speak and address you. It must be a good feeling for you knowing that obviously you've provided that for them. Yeah,
because I think, I learned how to, like I've said, just to be on their level and just be compassionate and just, I can use my losses and use them as, just to fuel their progress and stuff. I think it's, and I've dealt with, loads of different things and stuff where I can just add it into a client's lifestyle, because obviously rejection, you learn and you grow. Every time you're rejected, you can suffer, but you always learn something from something, right? Yeah. And you can just apply that in a better way to their life. So yeah, for me, it was always just getting a client, just from A to B, but in a way that they just loved the result. And it wasn't always it wasn't getting a six pack or it's not necessarily always losing the weight. It was just the mindset change. Yeah. And being creating a new identity. And that's kind of what I work on with now, within my new online coaching program, which is I sign clients up for 90 days and we work on just all aspects of their life, not just the training and the nutrition, but everything. So they know they can set themselves. I get them journaling. I get them kind of writing down affirmations, all these different things of what they're proud of. We celebrate each little win per week. It might be something super, super small, but it's a win. Once you celebrate one small win, it just builds momentum and gradually builds, bigger. And within this community as well, having, kind of a group of people all winning at the same, and it just encourages each client to do better. And, it's knock-on effect, which, and as a coach, that is the best feeling. Definitely. It's not financial, it's just getting a client from feeling crap about themselves to changing their lifestyle, whether they've got kids and they can be, more active for their children, role models for, whether it's their work, all these different factors. So that's the reason, why I love coaching, and that's what I've learned over the years is to be able to just guide and help them. That's awesome, mate. Now, from the outside looking in, we've all heard the stories before where kind of people assume that because you played football or that you're a footballer or an athlete or whatever it may be in whatever chosen sport, they assume that you've either got loads of money or your lifestyle's amazing. We know that that's not true. And obviously nowadays people are kind of seeing that. The margin is, I wouldn't even like to say, but the margin is the ones that make it properly and earn enough to retire is, even Premier League players, mate, isn't it? Yeah. Don't invest, and you can see, even big players have lost money like that, right?
100%, and that can be through various different reasons, whether it's bad advice, poor investment, whatever it may be. Now, from that, with that in mind, based on what we've kind of just said there, why do you think kind of some find it hard? Because irrespective of how much money you've got when you retire, or how your career's been, or whatever, some people find it hard, some people don't. I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't really find the transition hard. Obviously, your transition's been different. So why do you then think some find it hard and some don't?
I think, from my experience, and then again, everyone's different, and obviously listening through your other podcasts with other people, I think for me it was just the lack of support, the lack of direction you got when you left football. Just, I mean, I don't like to say the family side, but I just had, I just didn't really have the support in a role model sense that, I wasn't able to think outside the box. I just didn't know where I wanted to go. So for me, I think support and, obviously we were doing just one leisure and tourism class. I think now there's probably a choice of transition, isn't there? Yeah. Compared to when I was at Coventry and stuff, there was only that. So I guess it was just the support and guidance, I guess, that I didn't really feel like I had. And things could have changed, and I could have been more proactive. I could have dealt with things better. I could have had, better help and stuff. But for me, I think the support I lacked. When contracts ran out, I struggled to kind of see a way through.
Okay. With that in mind, so obviously we know what it was like when we were growing up and obviously trying to make a name for ourselves within the game. And there wasn't really much focus on retirement or transition or whatever it may be. And if there was, the conversation I always felt that it was kind of a bit negative. The approach to retirement is always seen as, okay, well, retirement is for those that are kind of 35, 36. I'm not interested because I'm only 17, 18, whatever. Yeah. Now, for me,
I was in denial, mate, for many years, because I thought someone owed me something.
Okay.
I took the victim approach as well. I did. I felt like I should have, maybe made it better. And I just felt like everyone was against me. That was just me. That was probably the depression side of things just taking over. Okay. I just struggled to deal with the rejection. That's coming from, I guess, from young and stuff, but that's something I find very hard to talk about. And I've had therapists where I've obviously tried to speak about my past and stuff, and it's always something I've always tried to struggle. I've always struggled getting out, really.
Okay.
But that was, it was tough. It was tough.
Do you think retirement needs to be approached in a different way when it comes to athletes? And when I say a different way, what I'm saying is, from the athlete themselves, from family members, like friends, coaches, the organizations, because I always feel like it's not just about the players who are at the latter stages of their career. Maybe something needs to be put in place when you sign your first contract, or whether you're maybe a late teen or whatever it may be, some type of focus on what your interests are outside of football or outside of tennis.
We know, Dan, we know by results and stuff that there's a minute percentage of players make it pro and are successful and earn big money. There's how many kids want to be a footballer?
Yeah.
Or an athlete or a whatever, sports person, how many? Every single kid, bar none, right? So there needs to be, there needs to be something where, you have this kind of, this safety net where you are getting educated alongside just as much as when you're training with a club or whatever. It should be 50-50 split or whatever, where you're kind of just both running together, merging both, an athlete or whatever, and then an academic, scholarship or whatever they're doing. So I do believe that, the resources back then were limited, right? We didn't have options, whereas, there should be so many options. And I think kids at a young age should not be kind of promised the earth. Back in the day that some kids that were the top of the game and stuff at even a young age were kind of paid, families got cars and houses and stuff, and are believed to be the next best thing and stuff. And it can be switched off just like that.
Correct.
There's no coaching within, that it's almost like they're a piece of meat, isn't it? They're just thrown into the deep end. Here you go, see how you get on, and then it could be tomorrow, could be your last day kind of thing.
Definitely. I mean, definitely, you are a commodity. You're just an asset, to be honest. And obviously, 100%. When a club doesn't want you, they tend to do as much as they can to get rid of you. And I've seen it happen to so many players. It is so ruthless. And I can only really draw on football because obviously that's what I played and you played. Exactly. So ruthless. And until you're actually immersed in it, you don't really know. Because from the outside looking in, like with anything, I suppose, outside looking in, it's always an element of kind of guesswork. You see things from a different perspective. But when you're involved in it on a day-to-day, that's when you actually really kind of understand, feel it, see it.
Again, with when you're in the industry as well, an injury can change your life like that. You could break your leg and just that's it. Day one, you could be, earning great money, and then the next minute you're injured, and that's it. Career over.
Exactly. Do you miss playing at all?
I do, mate, because when I moved to London, my initial plan was to stay playing semi-pro and get my PT job. But I got into the job, and then I started picking up clients. I couldn't train Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for a game that could be anywhere in England for like 100 quid or whatever. It just wasn't worth it. So I kind of stopped playing. Let's say 30, where even at semi-pro level, you could probably have another 7-8 years at good level. So
yeah.
I felt like I did stop playing football early, but again, I had to think of money then.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got my son, he's 12 now, so he lived in Swansea and still lives in Swansea. So that was, a Saturday that I would miss. So I just couldn't play anymore. So the PT took over and never looked back. Do miss it though, mate, as you know, because being in a dressing room, there's no better banter. I think this is, in terms of what made me as a kid is just that banter that we had in the changing room. And then when you leave the sport, this is another story. You lack, you're not with the lads anymore. You kind of left to your own devices. How many years do you share a changing room with people? You build relationships, and that's why a lot of obviously pro players now come out of the game and you see them deteriorate, even the top players. Gambling, alcohol, because they've had this lifestyle for so many years where they're in, all about the banter. Take that out of their life because that's all they've ever known. You pick up players like let's say Paul Gascoigne or someone like that.
Yeah.
Alcoholics now where that's all they've ever known. And then they've kind of just gone sideways. So I do miss that aspect, and I miss being around the lads in the change room and just having the banter.
Yeah.
You can't replicate that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I try and ask that question as many times as I can when I speak to people because, again, I enjoyed the banter and all that, and I was always one of the boys and everything and socializing and stuff. But for me, I don't miss it at all. The day I got offered the job, I was like, it was like a massive sigh of relief, purely because it was like, okay, well, I've kind of played football, lived kind of every boy's dream to a certain degree, boys and girls' dream. But it was like, okay, I've got a job now. Like, I've reached that milestone where people would ask the question, oh, you know what it's like on a night out? Oh, you're still playing? What are you going to do afterwards? It's like, let me just enjoy my night out. Like, why are you asking me about what I'm going to do?
I remember them days, Dan, because obviously we used to go out together and, in your hometown, everyone knew you as the footballer, right?
Yeah.
And you oh, God, how are you getting on, blah, blah, blah. So you're always talking about it, right?
Yeah.
You just felt like, you had to kind of, you almost had to lie sometimes to be like, yeah, I'm loving it. I'm this kid in town. And I suffered from that, mate, because I was like, I was scared to let it go, that I wasn't a footballer anymore.
I know what you mean. I mean, it was frustrating. What I used to find frustrating is people never really used to ask me about me. It was always about football. And there's so much more to me, even when I was playing, than just football. So I always try to deflect those questions. And I got to a stage, it was quite early on when we started socializing. I just said, look, if I'm on a night out, like, don't ask me about football. Just let's talk about something else, because I want to be like one of the boys. I don't want to be coming out and then you're talking about like.
You know what, I actually do remember that about you, where we didn't want to talk about football. You wanted to leave the ball at home and just enjoy the night, didn't you?
Exactly.
And just drinks, talk about normal stuff.
Yeah.
You know, talk about girls like we used to, and
that's it.
I just wanted to be, because you had the changing room banter, mate, and you know you had your mates away from football where. Yeah. Again, you just didn't want to talk about the football aspect. You wanted to kind of leave that at the changing room and then, you know, enjoy different things, right?
Exactly.
Enjoy talking about normal stuff.
Exactly. That's the way I liked it, and I still do now. I mean, if people ask me, I'll talk about it, but I don't. I mean, when I start a new job and stuff, I don't tell them I used to play football. They normally find out through other means, and it's like, oh, you didn't tell me. And it's like, well, you didn't ask. Like, I'm not going to introduce myself and say, oh, by the way, I used to play football. It's just it doesn't sound right. That's not me. No. Is there any advice that you'd like to give, like, for anyone? And I'm talking about anyone involved in sport. It doesn't have to be football. Young, old, whatever it may be, at whatever stage in their career. What advice would you give going forward?
In what sense, Dan?
With regards to approaching retirement and obviously transitioning away from sport.
I mean, if you obviously getting a good support system, so good family is always important. If you're kind of in sport now and you're making your way up and stuff, you've always just, you know, what I regret is just not taking on, you know, doing obviously academic stuff, you know, and doing as many courses as I could, having that safety blanket, because I think as a kid, you just think, right, this is it. You're going to be a footballer. There's nothing else that's going to come between that. And then just getting just for me, I found counselling was really, really good. And I always, even most of my clients who I see now get therapy because it's not a bad thing. And I think as a guy growing up as well, I think we were scared to open up, mate, as lads, right? We didn't talk about things. And it's only now, like with this mental health boom that everyone's, you know, suffering, that we can actually talk to people. And it's not a bad thing. It's not seen as a bad thing to get a therapy session or have a therapist. It just allows you to be more clear in your mind, to get decisions, you know, clearer. Because I always felt like I was foggy, mate. When I thought about things, I just didn't have. I remember going shopping loads of times, mate, to Sainsbury's or something, and I was going down an aisle, and I was like, I can't even make the decision whether I'm going to get a fucking steak or a chicken breast. And it used to take me 10 minutes. Like, I was just literally so foggy that I didn't have, like, simple things like that. I was just like, geez, I'm not even on this planet at the minute. So just getting the right support, mate, and just being advised correctly that, you know, it's a minority that make it, and just to get something behind, and it should be drilled into them early, where, you know, you've got to have this as an equivalent. You know, you may not make it, but you've got to have this secondary lifestyle, you know, just while you're growing up, I think.
Amazing. So great advice. Brilliant advice. Pearson, it's been great to catch up. Obviously, try and keep in touch along the way. I'm so glad that you're obviously doing well. It looks like you're obviously on the way up in terms of your PT and your online kind of.
Always learning, Dan. That's the thing. Like, you know, now, you know, even as a trainer, you never stay stagnant, mate. There's always things to learn, new approaches. You know, new people to talk to. Every client you get is different, has different views, different, you know, problems and stuff. So it keeps me on my toes, mate.
Definitely. Before you go, just let everyone know kind of where we can find you on the socials, the name of your company, and obviously anything else.
Okay, so my brand is DCP Fitness, so that's my initials, David Castro Pearson Fitness. My Instagram is actually DCP__fitness. So that's my social media handle. So yeah, that's where obviously with the online coaching side of things, everything comes through Instagram now. So DCP__fitness.
Awesome, mate. Top man. Appreciate the chat. Again, keep striving. Obviously, keep in touch. And hopefully we'll speak.
Thanks, Dan, for getting me on. It's been a privilege to be asked to come on here, mate. I love it.
No worries. Speak soon. See you later.
Bye, mate. Take care, mate.